Ever wonder what happens when you stop pretending and feel? I am Amanda Andrade, founder of Mastering Relationships Academy and author of If You Allow It, You Can Feel It. This is the Journey Unscripted podcast. Real conversations, unscripted moments, and the emotional truths that connect us all. On today's podcast, meet Katie Burngroover, certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and founder of Angel Wing Health. After years of exhaustion, sleepless nights, and stubborn weight, Katie discovered the root causes behind her struggles and completely transformed her health. Now she's helping others to do the same with functional lab testings and personalized coach so they can finally feel rested, energized, and at home in their bodies. Thank you, Katie, for being here with us. It's a pleasure to having you. Could you now share a little bit with us about your story, your path, and how did you get in here?
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you today. So, my journey started a long time ago, 20 something years ago. I wanted to go to medical school. My mother is a retired health and PE teacher. So, health and wellness have always been a large part of my life. And in college, I took an EMT class and thought this was fascinating. And I decided I wanted to go to medical school. I applied, got on the wait list, and in the process of completing the requirements that they said I was lacking, part of which was research, I discovered or kind of became more aware that part of my training or a large part of my training was going to be how to prescribe medications to my patients. And I've never been a big believer that medications fix everything. I believe there are times and places for medications,
I
but I
do believe
believe,
on that too.
yes, yes. But I believe that we way overuse them as a culture. But I also think 20 something years ago when I was trying to go to medical school, I think that the population at the time still wanted the quick fix. We had been trained that medications fixed it all, and that's what people still were looking for. I noticed that when I was doing my clinical rotations, and people didn't want behavior changes. They wanted a pill that would fix it all. And so I realized that was not the right path for me. So I detoured. I ended up in insurance of all the strange things. It's always a fun question to ask insurance agents how they got there because it's never, I wanted to be an insurance agent. So I did that for 10 years, which was great. I learned a lot. I became really good at legalese. You have to be in order to interpret policies. And then I wasn't fulfilled. Go ahead.
Do you allow myself to ask you this? You were mentioned with us, you were just not in favor of medication, right? In the school scenario. And then here you come to the insurance part,
Yeah.
which is very interesting on that dynamic, right? And how did you feel in that moment? Like you have that awareness about medication, and here you are on the insurance industry. How did you feel about that?
Well, a lot of my insurance, I did some health insurance work, but most of my insurance work was in property and casualty. So I was working with car insurance and business insurance and more of that side of it. So there wasn't, I had a mentor at that time in my life that said, you need to learn how to sell. And I had my dad's best friend when I was growing up was an insurance agent, and I had worked with him and his business. So I was like, well, I understand the product. So now I just have to learn the skill. And so that's what led me into insurance. And
Nice.
it was great for about 10 years, and then I was bored is really what it came to. Was I had read every policy form I could. I felt like there wasn't much more to learn, and I'm a perpetual learner. And so it was time to detour. And so I actually detoured into education. I had been tutoring students for years, and I thought, well, this is cool. Let me go do this as a profession. So I got my master's degree in mathematics education. I taught 6th through 12th grade high school math and science for 12 years. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And then we got to a place where um, it just, the school systems cannot meet the needs of our children. And I couldn't
Mm.
fix it from inside. We are so, yeah, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, so that was time for a change. And then
You
add that to my health journey, which is where I'll go next. But
Yeah, you just touch on my heart, right? Because
yeah,
we're not going on the whole, but I would
yeah,
like
yeah.
to bring that awareness. The education system nowadays is very unsatisfied. I will use that word because it's not preparing the kids for the real world, which on my viewpoint, and I can always be wrong, right?
Yeah.
But from my viewpoint, what we need the most it's emotional intelligence and spirituality. Once you have those two, you are empowered because knowing how to regulate your emotion and to respond to the external events and people, you are just empowered. And in the other hand, get in touch with who you are spiritually, right? And I'm not talking about religion in here. I'm just sharing about it is spirituality. It's about your spiritual being, your consciousness, your soul or spirit, whatever you want to call. Having that connection and intimate relationship without shame, without guilt, without blame. Whoa, you have like a powerful team for you to thrive in life. So I just would like to just point that out. But yeah, so we have this big system, I would say, that is, and it's in a form of controlling, but
Yeah.
you know,
It was designed for a purpose that we no longer live in, for a world that, we were it was designed to build factory workers, and that's not and there's nothing wrong with being a factory worker, but that's not what our bulk of our population needs anymore. So it's just
finally.
it was time to leave teaching. But that wasn't what led me into being a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. It began actually several years before that. My husband and I married in 2015. And we got pregnant a week or 2 weeks right after we got married because I lost track of the days in the process of planning the wedding. We weren't planning on getting pregnant until about a year later because we were going to honeymoon 6 months after our wedding. And so when we got pregnant so fast, it was like, no, 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 I'm not going on my honeymoon 6 months pregnant. So I threw a whole monkey wrench and everything. We ended up postponing our honeymoon for a year. And then my parents and his parents watched the baby while we were gone on our honeymoon. But
Reverse engineer, reverse.
yeah, it was not quite how we worked it out, but we have a beautiful son, he's amazing, so he was absolutely worth it. But so our first pregnancy was by accident and was very easy. We conceived very easy, we weren't trying, and the pregnancy went beautifully, he was healthy, everything in my blood pressure was great, my blood sugar was fine, like, everything in the pregnancy was just as it was supposed to be. I ended up having a C-section only because he was breached. The little bugger wouldn't turn around. And that ended up because he was folded in half. He had his ankles around his ears, and so there wasn't room for him to turn around in there.
Wow. Big
But so I had
boy.
to, yeah, yeah. But he's contrary for sure. But so I had to have a C-section, but everything else was fine. So 2 years later, we were ready to grow our family. We wanted to have another baby. And we got pregnant really easy. Everything seemed great. We call the doctor and they schedule your first appointment. And I don't remember if it was 8 or 10 weeks, somewhere in there. Whenever they say is the first, like, we can take a picture. We should be able to see a heart rate by now. And we're all excited. And both our parents, so the town we lived in at the time was about 80 miles from the doctor. And my parents lived 80 miles from the doctor in the other direction. And so they met us there. And then his parents were there too. And I have no idea. I don't remember why we had both sets of parents at the doctor with us. But so there's the six of us. The parents were waiting outside of the doctor's office while we go in and go to the appointment. And they do an ultrasound and there's no heartbeat. And the doctor said, well, maybe it's just a little early. Like, the size of the baby says the baby's only 6 weeks old. Maybe you miscounted your days in telling us when you got pregnant. And just for context, I have been so regular in my cycle for my whole life that there was no way I miscounted the days. It just was not possible to be off by 4 weeks.
And plus, you're a math teacher.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm generally good at math, except for right after my wedding. And then I wasn't so good at math.
It's just like, wait a second, no, this doesn't make sense. I have all of my period track, and then my math it's on the place.
Yes.
And in that moment, you received that information. How was it your word? Because, I mean,
So Yeah, the doctors were trying to give us hope that we need to come back in a few weeks and maybe there would be a heartbeat, and but they were also real, and they said it could mean that the baby has stopped growing and that you will miscarry. We just don't know right now. So have hope. It could be okay. But my husband and I knew instinctively that it was over. That there wasn't going to be a baby. And when I thought back on it, my first pregnancy, I had morning sickness for the whole pregnancy, like very early on. It wasn't ever severe, but it was always present. And with the second pregnancy, it was there for the first 2 weeks and then it disappeared. And I thought, wow, this is great. Like this pregnancy will be fabulous. And when we were in that clinic at that moment and heard the doctors say it's possible that the baby stopped growing, I knew when my morning sickness had gone, like that was my body had tried to tell me before, and I just didn't know how to listen. I didn't know what the message was. And so we had to go outside the clinic and tell our parents, both sets, and they're so excited and they're, yay, how'd it go? What's going on? What's it look like? And we had to say it's not growing and we probably won't have the baby. And to their credit, they tried, so hard to love us in our space and not push their own grief and surprise and um fear probably. I don't even know all the emotions they were having. I know I was overwhelmed and I was scared because I didn't know what had caused it. Our son was so easy, and why had this happened? Had I done something, eaten something? Like who knows? Am I just too old? I was 37 when we had my son, and so at this point I was 39. I'm an old mom.
Oh,
But
nowadays
they
we yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know, but they call it that. The doctors say I'm a geriatric mother. I'm like, "Oh, that's a lovely word."
I did not know that. That is a
Yeah,
name for that.
there is over 35 and you're a geriatric mother. You're It's kind of
Wow.
crazy.
Distinctions, right?
Yeah.
Distinctions.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't like that word. I don't feel so geriatric, but
It's not
so
welcoming. It's not like
no.
it's your decision for this time of your life, and that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that you just like a specific name on it.
right.
And so I'm just sharing like my empathy because how have you been in my body to see how I'm feeling when you call me like that,
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And then
Yeah.
you're just interfacing with like their loss. And yeah, it was huge because thinking about it, you excited for your second child, you plan, and then you have your parents both with you
Well,
guys, and
yeah.
all of the suddenness you need to share that delicate news. It's very uncomfortable and has that processing time of
Mhm.
grief and all of the roller coaster, emotional roller coaster, because overwhelmed and all of the hormones. And I honor your journey because I have not been there in that situation, but I do believe that would be something devastating at first.
Mhm.
And you mentioned something about the body. Your body was sending you signals for that, and you could
Mhm.
not catch, you could not understand. Could you share with us, Katie, how has your connection with your body improved since that event?
Well, it's been a series of events, but I've become much more in tune with my body and the messages that it tries to send me. A lot of what I've learned over the years is a lot of the health struggles that we have, our body has been crying out for us to notice, usually for years. And we have become desensitized to those cries and we have forgotten how to hear the messages that our body is sending us. And I don't know, in the case of my miscarriage, my body um, disposed of the baby shortly after, it was about a week or two after, and I passed the baby naturally. So I certainly would have known then. But I feel like the earlier, when the hormones had quit surging, that was the time to start preparing emotionally for what was coming physically. And I didn't know how to listen to that. And I don't honestly know how you learn that piece, because part of learning what your body is telling you is learning how you feel when you're good and then recognizing when something isn't good and then being able to logically connect back to why it has changed. And pregnancy is such a unique experience that I think, I don't know, I think that's probably a hard one to know in the moment. Like, I don't think there's any way I could have known in that moment because I hadn't experienced it. But then we did it again. And so we had told everybody with that pregnancy, my coworkers, his friends, like everybody. And we had to untell them all. And what I realized in the process of miscarriage is my own grief is heavy and it weighs here and it's smothering. But when you carry the grief of everybody else, that's when it really squishes you down. You know, we had to carry the grief of our parents and our sisters and our friends also because they didn't know how to respond. They didn't know how to help us. There wasn't any help to be had. We didn't want to dwell on it, but we didn't want to hear the I'm sorries and I'm so, it's not helpful. We wanted to be held in love and move along so we could work through our own grief. And so to carry everybody else's grief was made it so much worse. So we got pregnant again. And the second time we told only our family, sisters and parents. And again, 6 weeks in, my body felt better. And I was like, oh, I remembered this signal before. And we go to the doctor again, and there's still no viable baby. The baby has stopped growing again. And they wanted to do, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, was two sequence of miscarriage, like one, and how far was three? How far for each other was?
It ended up being about every 6 months. So about over 18 months, we had three. And then we got, yeah. And then the miracle.
I mean, I do believe that in that 18 months, you've been through in such amazing growth for you to be prepared for your next pregnancy, because that probably gave you everything that you need to know in order for you to prepare yourself to receive the baby.
It, what it did was it opened my eyes to the fact that my body wasn't as well as I thought. And so after, I don't remember if it was the second or third, but I was talking with my OBGYN and we were talking fertility treatment. She's like, "Well, I can refer you to this." And I said, "That's not what it is. I don't want to go pay for that. I'm not interested in that. I know intuitively that's not the problem. I can get pregnant. I don't need somebody else to do that. It's not staying in there." And I felt intuitively that my uterine lining was not capable of supporting a baby, but I didn't know why. And so that set me on a journey to ask why. And my doctor said, "Well, if you think it's your uterine lining, I think you need to see a functional practitioner. So you need to go see a naturopath because this is not a place where I can help you, but she can." So she referred me out to a lovely lady who did some functional lab testing. One specifically was food sensitivity testing. And when we got the results back, she said, so just to give you some context on this particular test, the high level limit is like 8 and my dairy number was like 24. And so I was off the charts inflamed from dairy. And then my wheat was like 6 and my eggs were like 4. And she says, "You need to quit dairy, wheat, and eggs because you are so inflamed from these 3 foods that like your body's just puffed up inside. You can't see it on the outside, but your body on the inside is trying to tell you to stop." So I cut those 3 foods out for February, for March. No, no, it was in April that I got that. So it was in April. We cut it out for April and 2 weeks of May. We got pregnant the middle of May, and we have my beautiful daughter from that pregnancy. And so,
Just just changing the functional labs?
yes,
Wow. What is a shift?
yeah,
I'm
it was.
really impressed.
And so what that opened in my mind was that the things we do to our body matter more than I ever realized. I had no idea. And the funny thing is, when I gave up dairy, I have had for my whole life these headaches across the back of my neck, back the base of my skull. And I always just thought they were tension headaches. And I'd go to the chiropractor and I'd get massages and I'd take Advil and it'd fix it. Well, when I gave up dairy, those headaches went away. And so what they really were was inflammation from the dairy. The Advil helped because Advil is an anti-inflammatory. And so it would reduce that inflammation, which would take away the pain.
Yeah.
Tylenol never helped because Tylenol isn't an anti-inflammatory. It wasn't pain, it was swelling that was causing the pain. And so I just became aware of how much the body is trying to tell us isn't working well. So those things set me on a journey to learn more, explore more, figure out more about what is the body trying to tell us. And then my husband started having really intense gastrointestinal pains. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was so bad that our children, he used to wrestle and play with our son and our daughter a lot, and they couldn't barely touch his stomach. And he would just groan and like have to set them aside. And it was so torturous to watch what used to be such fun playtime for them and no longer was. And the doctors didn't know. And they put him on this medication and they put him on that medication and they did this scope and they did this exam and nothing was coming up. And so we decided, well, food worked great for me. Like, let's just see. And so we were going to do a month without dairy because I was already eating dairy free. So that was an easy one to try as a family. And that didn't make any difference. And then right before we were going to start giving up gluten, he had another test from his doctor that said that confirmed he was celiac, which is a gluten destroys the lining in the gut and that creates celiac disease. And so we gave up gluten and he healed and it was amazing. He lost a ton of weight that he'd been hanging on to. Like he was feeling a lot better. The kids were able to wrestle again. It was extraordinary.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. And so then probably about a year or two after that, my son started having these unbelievable tantrums. And he would go from being a happy, crazy, life is amazing kid to I am so angry, can't even talk, screaming mad, stomping, laying on the floor, screaming in like no time at all. You couldn't figure out the trigger. We had no idea what was going on. It was like overload. He's blown up, and we know what's going on. The doctors are like, "That's normal. Toddler, 4, 5, 6 years old." I'm like, "That's not normal. Like you should be able to see what builds to a tantrum. Like that's what we'd always been able to see, and now he would just explode." We went to a behavior therapist. She gave us some strategies for how to navigate through them, and she was amazing. But we just couldn't figure out what the trigger was. Well, we thought, okay, well, we both healed from food. Maybe there's something food here that's bugging him. So we cut out all grains and all sugar from him, and he became a totally different kid. He could focus. He was happy. Like he is still high energy and very dynamic, but the tantrums left. He could talk through his anger. And so food became such a staple of my practice. There are more pieces to healing than just food. But I have 3 very clear examples in my own life of
Totally.
where food is amazing when we are feeding our bodies what it needs, how much we can heal, and when we're feeding it things that it doesn't want, how much it affects our health. And the tricky part for me was we had to guess and check our way through what foods worked. Thankfully, I had the one lab test and was like, okay, she said these 3 things are often trouble. So that's kind of where we started. But we were kind of rolling the dice trying to figure out what was going on. And as I sought out ways to help other people, one of the things I learned in my training is that there is very quality testing to help us learn. For example, my husband can't have broccoli, but broccoli is supposed to be really healthy for you. But for him, it completely inflames his body and creates all kinds of pains in his joints. But we wouldn't have known that without testing. And so there's pieces here where we can guess our way through some stuff, but I got really tired of guessing and I wanted to figure out how to test and how to really have a better plan. And so that's what led me to my training. Back to your root question forever ago was all of these pieces together compiled. And it was like, there's got to be a better way than rolling the dice and trying this new thing and rolling the dice and trying this new thing and trying to see what works. And so
It,
I found that way.
and I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing because all of the pieces it's connected.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I do agree with you that food plays I would say 80% of our role in life. Because if you're thinking on 90, I would say our gut is our second brain. So
Hmm.
everything that we put in our body, it's being processed in the gut and it is connected with our cognitive system through the vagus nerves. Basically, everything that we eat, if it is not healthy, we are just putting a trash in
Yeah.
our body.
Yes.
And that is also related with the mindset,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if I don't have awareness about my body, if I don't have awareness about my cognitive system or emotional intelligence or how you perceive yourself in life or how you wanted to thrive, how all of those parts of it, of course, I'm not going to make a good decisions of my
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
And especially in United States, I would say the food chain in here,
It
which
leaves
it is.
something to be desired.
Yes, and I mean, I have been to Europe, I've been to another countries, which give me this opportunity to witness how they treat food, how they treat the health system over there, and how I can choose better for those experiences, right? And it's really going and just read the label, and everything it is on the label. If you, as much as it's bigger is the list, as much is the trash on it.
Yep.
It's for me, it's just raw and as it's me like less food, I would say, because I only eat when I need, and
Mhm.
I do
Well,
fasting.
yeah, and you have developed your body so that you know those signals. But a lot of people have lost touch with when they're full. And then add to that that a lot of food is designed to stimulate your hunger. So for example, if you eat chips or bread before you eat a meal, you are stimulating your hunger hormones and you're suppressing your fullness hormones, and you will eat more. And so and I think, I think restaurants do it not intentionally to be, to make you eat more, but, to give you something to snack on while they cook your food. Well, the trouble is you've suppressed your body's ability to know that you're full. And so then you eat the whole plate of food, whereas you probably would have been fine with only half of it.
Wow.
And so, do that with a bag of chips or do that with, so there's so many things in our food system that override and hijack our body's ability to communicate well with us. And so that's what I try to do in my work now is to help us uncover those hidden signals. They're not hidden, but we've forgotten how to hear them so that we can get back to a place where our body feels good.
And I thank you so much for sharing this because I was not even aware about that.
Yeah. There's so many little pieces like that that are just, that help.
And I appreciate, and for all of you guys that are listening to this, please be aware about that and make a conscious decision from whatever the chips come into your plate, into your table. You're going to remember of us on this podcast talking about that. And even
And we say
myself,
no to the second basket.
even
Do you
myself, if
want
I
more
see
bread? No, no, I do not.
and if I see that, I will just like immediately remember, okay, this is for to trigger my anger.
Yes. And hang on to it. Like they're delicious and we don't necessarily want to get rid of them, but maybe set them off to the side and then eat your meal and then enjoy the bread at the end, because you'll find there won't be as much room for it at the end, because your body, the vegetables and the proteins have helped signal that you've had enough. And then when you add the bread, you're like, "Ooh, too full now," versus when you eat it before, it's like, "Oh, I got more room in here."
Yes, I love that. I take it. I take it. Now I learn it. I will do that. And please, for you that are listening to us, just embody that. First your meal, and then you go to the tips.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
in
yeah.
case.
It's a
Just
place to
in
start.
case.
Yeah, if your weight isn't where you want it to be, that is an easy place to begin. So there are lots of places that we can work, but that's a quick freebie.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And another thing, the thing that I love when you were sharing, it's about like the functional lab
Mhm, mhm,
testing. I never done, and I felt the invitation for me to do that because I believe that with time our body shifts, and
mhm,
especially us women, we have so much hormones,
mhm.
and we need to fall. the lineage of the age and all of that to really stay connected with our body. And for me, what I've been seeing that has so much effect in my body, it's fasting. Whenever I do fasting, right? So typically I have the window to eat from 12 until 8 o'clock. That's the
Hmm.
window that I have, and typically I have 2 meals. And other than that, whenever I do my fasting for days, the last time that I did fasting was for 5 days,
Good for you.
and that was so good. So much connection within the body. Like my body was so lighter, and I was doing the exercise and just like really feeling my body just with the water. I mean, those moments, it's really like you get in touch with the God within you, and you've been like feel it with like divine source because you are focused in your body having the opportunity to cleanse, and
Yeah.
then you can clean your neural pathway. You can open a space for the new energy to come in, and you can reframe belief systems. You can reframe unhealthy patterns that you've been carrying for a certain period of time. And so for me, I feel so much joy and grace. And sometimes people think, "Oh, you crazy," and I was like, "No, you don't know what
Feels
crazy."
so good. Yeah. Yeah.
I I
Well,
feel so good.
yeah. Some of the science behind the fasting is in our carbohydrate laden world, we have lost the ability to use fat. I wouldn't say lost. We have forgotten how to use fat for fuel. And when you fast, you reawaken that knowledge in your body. Your body is not deplete of energy when you're fasting, it is turning your fat cells back into energy. And we call that metabolic flexibility. And the more metabolically flexible that you are, the better that your circadian rhythms are regulated, meaning your sleep patterns, the better that your weight is regulated, the better that your hunger cycles are regulated. And so when we snack all day long and we eat all day long, we get the shakes because we're hangry. Well, that means you're not metabolically flexible. And so for you and for anybody who's fasting, you're reconnecting your body to its ability to use fat for fuel. And there are so many benefits that come with that skill within the body. But from the early age, we start eating carbohydrates all the time. We give our kids crackers, we give our kids granola bars, we eat fruit for snack, we eat like it's all of these carbohydrates. And what that does to your blood sugar is it keeps it like this. And we never have that chance for the blood sugar to get down here where we can clean out the body. And that happens when we use our fats for fuels. And so that's awesome that you, and most people, like if they're going to start fasting, I like your window. You should actually start with like 10 hours of fasting and then increase that by an hour every few days. I also eat only 2 meals a day. I don't focus on a fasting window, but I eat breakfast and I usually eat lunch about 2:30 and then I don't eat again because that's what feels the best in my body.
Yeah, I mean, really understand your body and connect with your body. It's the
Mhm.
key. And once you have that space for you to stay connected, you're going to see unbelievable things happen to you and like in your healthy patterns, in your mindset. For me, it's about the mindset. Like how much I've been improving with all of this and really sharing with others, right? And because for me, what is success? Success it's me doing, not doing, being with in peace with myself and choosing a conscious food, choosing like pleasure time, just like really resting, self-care, and not only going to the salon or anything. It's like meditating and just being with my body in that connection, because like you just mentioned at the beginning, we were designed to feel disconnected from our body, and that design comes from the food,
Mhm.
comes from the system, the chain system out there. And I would like to ask you, how was it the journey since that you are identifying that chain to the point that you just like let it go and you surrender and you start this shift in your life and, and with your family as well. Can you share a little bit with us, please?
Yeah. So the shift, it started happening, oh boy, 2017, and then 20 fall of 23 was when I knew I needed to make a change. I had been feeling discontented in education, and it was like it's time. I have all of this amazing things that I've learned, and there are people who need it, and I have got to honor this calling in my body. And I think it had been growing in there for a while. I think I just hadn't listened because I was happy teaching. And finally it was, we were struggling with some other issues with my son that didn't have to do with food, um that we got sorted. But in that process, it was like, I need to be more present with him, and there are other people who needed to go on this healing journey, and I can't do this from in the classroom because I commit my whole soul to the classroom and to my students. And that doesn't stop, from 7:30 to 3:30. It's a 12 to 18 hour mental day, even if I'm not in the classroom that long. And so my husband and I discussed a lot of options, and I found the training program that I wanted to go through that gave me structure to give to my clients, because I had a lot of knowledge, but I didn't know, like, what is the best way to deliver this to my clients? I can't just throw it at them. Like, we need to have a plan. And so I found this training program, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner is where, it's my certification. And I looked through a lot, and I wanted one that was data based. As a math person, I want to see the numbers. I want to see the data. But then I don't want to just leave it that. I don't want to just look at the lab test, say, here you go, best of luck, because that's kind of where we were left. My practitioner said, you have a dairy allergy, cut it out and best of luck. So then there was a lot of things we had to navigate that we didn't get support on. And so it was like, I want to find a way that I can give people a plan based on their own body and then coach them through how to make those changes. So in fall of 23, my husband and I started talking about it, and I started looking for other jobs. I interviewed for this job in the spring of 24, and got off the phone, felt really good about the interview, but it was going to require travel for a fair bit. And I was talking to my husband. I said, I just, it doesn't feel right. I just don't think this is right. And he goes, I didn't think it was right from the beginning. It's like, oh, I missed that. Sorry. And he said, I don't think you should get another job. He says, I think you should quit your job. You should do your training full time, power through it, get it done, and start your business. People need your help, and you're not going to be able to get that done if you have another job. And he was like, okay. So with his blessing, I quit my teaching job in the spring of 24 and took the whole year. I mean, it took me 6 months or so to finish my training and launch my business December 1st of 24. And here we go.
Beautiful. What is an exciting journey, right? Because your life story got you to this time in life for you to be an entrepreneur, a business owner from your own background, from your own transformation. The same happened with myself. From my past, traumas, emotional traumas, physical traumas, and all of that got me where I am, to really hold this space for other people to uncover their belief systems and to really reframe what they need to reframe in order to become who they wanted to be. So hypnosis, hypnotherapy play a big role in my path. And because of that, I got certified as a hypnotherapist. And that's how I am supporting other people to overcome emotional blocks. Because just like you mentioned, you did not have emotional support in that time.
Yeah.
It's really, I did not have either, and I have to be self accountable in all of that. And I was like, okay, if I've been through this with my mindset, with mind associated, and with this lack of intimacy, how can I serve others?
Hmm.
Because if I have this divine gift, how can I serve? Because if I did struggle with this, that is like a lot of people struggling with this too, because
Hmm.
all of the belief system, the way that your mind is programmed, and all of those inner voices, you have the ability of changing that. That it's your decision to go through in the process. And I always tell my clients, listen, This will be uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not in here to it's a fairy tale. No, it is very uncomfortable. But let me tell you something. This is the door of freedom. Freedom of your own mind. And you're going to stay connected with source, with who you are. And you're going to experience this lifetime in a totally different position. You're going to get intimate relationships. You're going to manifest the partner that you wanted. You're going to be in the dream job that you would like to. Oh, you wanted to get your entrepreneur journey? Let's do it. I'm down for that. But just be aware that will be uncomfortable. But as long as you're just fine with that and
Yeah.
you're committed with that, I'm here for you and I will hold the space for you. And it's such a great gift and ability to witness people transformations because they have this inner power. And that is the reason that I don't call myself healer because I am not a healer. I am just a space that I hold for others because they have this higher self within, like the Holy Spirit. They have the source. They just need to be open to get that transformation. And that is so beautiful to witness that. And the same with you now. I was able to witness your transformation throughout the years and to cheerlead at you. Just congratulations, you did a great.
Thank
Because
you.
absolutely, for myself, because I honor my own energy and my own path in my past, I do understand that you also do that because that's where you are at. And that's how you just serving other people. And because our podcast is coming to the end and you are serving other people to this matter, I would like to ask you this. What is one message that you couldn't share with all of us around of the world that everybody will get your message? What would be your message for all of us?
Think we have been trained as a human population to ignore the signals of our body. We go to the doctor and say, I don't feel good. And the doctor says, your lab tests are fine. It's just in your head. And just know that it's not. Your body is telling you something. And if your doctor or your support system is telling you it's in your head, find a new one. Because there are those of us out there that will help you interpret that message. There are those of us out there that want you to hear your body again. We want you to heal. We want you to grow and to do the things you're supposed to do. My mission is to help women who are driven to accomplish something, but whose bodies and energies stand in their way to recover their own love of being in their body so they can get done the things that spirit put them here to do. So if you're
Beautiful.
not crazy, get her done.
I love you say like you're not crazy, get it done. Even you have that inner voice, right?
Yes,
Saying, "Oh, you're crazy." Okay, I am
you're not.
crazy, and I go with that.
No, your body is sending you a message, and you've got to, if you can't hear it on your own, or if you know it is, you just don't know what it is, and people are telling you don't listen, just ignore them. Find a new person because it doesn't mean throw them out of your life. It just means stop going to them for medical advice and find somebody else who can help you interpret the message.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because like whenever I mention about if the body say like, "Oh, you're crazy, go to check it out another person." Yes, go with the intuition
Yep.
because intuition has different ways of showing up, right? So for me, my intuition it's very like playful. Let's say in this case, right? Yeah, you crazy. You should go in there and check it out. Okay, let's go. And then I go, right? And then I
Yeah.
go to the opposite because if I'm thinking that is crazy, I go because craziness for me, it's fun. That's
Hmm.
how like my inner child had that model of it.
That's awesome.
But for sure, everybody's different, okay,
Yeah.
people? You gotta listen to your intuition, even you're going to against to what is the societal rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
As long as you feel comfortable and good within yourself, just honor because divine, it's always guiding us,
Hmm.
always guiding us. And everybody is going to have a different way of addressing and calling and tag. So if you heard somebody say something, don't take it for yourself, right? Because you have your own beliefs, you have your own way of experience life. Really just go ask and you receive, because we have that wisdom within us. And once you're opening up for the answer, that follow the path.
Yes. Exactly, exactly.
Katie, thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate you. And for you that would like to connect with Katie, I will put the links on the description. Reach out, talk with her, share your story, and I believe that she will be more than glad to support you in your journey.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank
Well,
you.
have a great day.
Thank you.